What's going on, YouTube fam? This your boy Tony 2 times, and we back with another episode of Hood Tales, man. Before I start, be sure to tap that like button. It's free. It helps get the video out there. Definitely watch this video to the end to hear the full story and all the details in the case. For my day one fam, y'all already know it's all love. Thanks for tuning back into another episode. If you're new to the channel and you feeling the content, feel free to subscribe. Definitely hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time we drop a new video. Oh yeah, feel free to share the channel with your peoples. Everybody is welcome. With that being said, let's get right into the story. For most people growing up, we had friends in our neighborhood that we hung out with on a regular. If you were fortunate enough to have a stable upbringing and not move around a lot, some of the strongest bonds come from the people we know from the playground and the sandbox. As y'all grow up together, that bond becomes stronger. Their family knows your family. Y'all go through growing pains together, and those friendships evolve into a brotherhood or a sisterhood. As life goes on, some people move, leave the neighborhood, others drift apart, but I'm sure most can relate to having that one homie. No matter what happened in life, y'all were close and stayed in contact, and that bond remained solid. Once we become grown, depending on what y'all are into, things can change though, and life can throw curveballs. If you grew up in the streets and get jammed up, prison can separate you from your peoples. Or having a family, kids, and working, you might not have as much time to kick it with your homie no more. But through all that, if y'all do link back up, now as grown-ups, mindsets are different. People change and go through things. In the real world, it's definitely not like the playground. Friends fall out every day, whether over money, betrayal, or realizing that person wasn't never real in the first place. But for some, they feel more comfortable around somebody they knew for years, not realizing time does not equal loyalty, and you never really know what's on a person's mind. And when you fake kicking it and you really don't trust a person or know their motive, things can take a crazy turn. And on this episode of Hood Tales, we'll be taking it to the NO, New Orleans, Louisiana, to discuss the case of a man who thought his day one homie was trying to backdoor him, so he made his move first. Back in 2018, 39-year-old Donald Dillard Jr. was navigating life in the NO. Donald came from a big family who had deep roots in the 7th Ward area of the city where he grew up at. Coming up in a tough city like New Orleans, Donald would run into some trouble early on in life and get jammed up. But as he got older, he learned from his mistakes. He had a daughter who he changed his life for and even started working 2 jobs, making sure he can stay free, out the way, and provide for himself and his child. Growing up, Donald had a lot of homies around his way who grew up in the same neighborhood. One young man who, even though was 9 years younger than him, he watched grow up from birth, was his neighbor, and they ended up being close friends. He was 30-year-old Cordero Davis. Cordero was in the same position as Donald, trying to navigate his way through the city, also with a troubled past. He was now trying to find a way, stay out the streets, and fly straight. He had a good example though, his day one homie Donald. Their families knew each other, they grew up as neighbors, and Donald watched Cordero come up from diapers, so the younger man looked up to him a lot. They started hanging tough almost every day after work. They would hit the city together, have a few drinks, and just chop it up. It seemed like all love, but in a city like New Orleans, that's considered cutthroat, meaning watch your homies and the people close to you. In Cordero's mind, the trust wasn't always there. On February 24th, 2018, Donald and Cordero were together, riding through the city. It was late, going into the next morning. They were sliding through their old neighborhood when just blocks away from where they grew up at, shots went off in the car. Nobody called police though. Instead, Cordero drove Donald to a nearby hospital, dropped his homie off, and told them he had been shot. He then surprisingly drove himself to the local police station. He walked in covered in blood. He handed a police officer his handgun and stated, "I just shot my friend." As police asked what happened, Cordero claimed him and Donald were out riding, and he started getting nervous when Donald's vibe switched up on him. He was telling him to drive to a certain area, and he felt his homie was reaching in his waistband. Thinking Donald had a gun on him and was trying to lure him in to backdoor him, Cordero upped his gun and shot first. As he told the story, police got word, unfortunately, Donald would pass away from his injuries at the hospital, and Cordero was charged with second-degree hit. Donald's family couldn't believe what happened and who was responsible for Donald's death. As police investigated the situation, it was never a second gun found. So the question was Donald really trying to take Cordero's life? As the case got ready to head to trial, prosecutors pointed to the fact the men grew up together as neighbors, and Cordero, out of his own paranoia, took his friend's life over nothing. They wasn't beefing, no dispute, nothing happened that night, but some say drugs were involved. Allegedly, Cordero's lawyer was able to get a toxicology report on Donald that showed he allegedly had a high level of meth in his system at the time of his autopsy. The lawyer argued the prosecutors were hiding evidence, which left the question, was Cordero also under the influence of drugs that night? And the substance is known to make people paranoid. The prosecutors decided to postpone the trial and instead offer Cordero a deal to cop out to the lesser charge of manslaughter. But first, Donald's family had to approve, in which, having love for Cordero, they did. At sentencing, he was facing 20 to 40 years. Donald's mother spoke out, stating she couldn't believe her son was gone, but she gave Cordero some grace. Since she knew his family and watched him grow up since a child, she stated, "I'm praying for you and your family." The judge allowed him to speak out before sentencing, and he turned around to apologize to Donald's mother and family, stating he was sorry how things turned out. It was never supposed to go down that way. The judge took into consideration Cordero drove Donald to the hospital, didn't try to run, turned himself in, and took accountability. With that, he was sentenced to 20 years in prison for manslaughter. Rest in peace to Donald. I send my prayers and condolences to his family. This is one of them situations that shows why a lot of people choose to stay to themselves and move alone. For Donald to survive 39 years in New Orleans, which has always had a reputation for being a dangerous city, and to lose your life to a day one homie from your own block who you knew your whole life is crazy. As far as Cordero, if they were high, it definitely could have played a part of how he felt in his actions that night. But if you don't trust a person and feel like they might backdoor you, you shouldn't be hanging with them in the first place. It doesn't matter how long you knew them or who they are to you. But I'm going to leave this one open for discussion. I want to know y'all thoughts on the situation. Leave it in the comments. And remember, we got to succeed, not to fail, so we won't be just another hood tale. Yeah, man, crazy story. Rest in peace, that man. I definitely send my prayers to his family. But I ain't going to talk too much more about this one. Y'all tap that like button if you're feeling the content. I definitely appreciate you if you made it to the end. This is another episode of Hood Tales. This your boy Tony 2 times. Love, fam. I'm out.